All right, everybody, once again, happy Wednesday morning. Hope you guys are still doing well. And if you weren't doing well before, I hope you're doing well now. But we got to flip the page now. We talked about offensive prospects earlier. Now we're going to talk about the defensive prospects. Again, focusing on certain positions that I think might be a priority for the Seahawks. Let's just go from the front, move back, start with the nose tackle spot, which pretty much every week is going to be like two guys. There aren't that many true nose tackles out there. And one, or actually, I would say two of them are probably going to go very high in the draft, which means that it's not really in play. I don't think the Seahawks can spend another first round pick on a defensive lineman, even if they need a nose tackle. It's just, there are other areas that they need to consider. But anyway, two guys that I want to shout out this week for the nose tackle spot would be Dante Corleone. Welcome back, by the way. He's been playing really well since he came back from blood clots, so good for him. For the Bearcats, one tackle, but four QB pressures, and the Bearcats only allowed 26 rushing yards, which was 1.3 yards a carry and 16 total points. So Corleone certainly doing his job in there, taking up space and also getting to the quarterback. 78.8 on PFF. The other guy was Kenneth Grant, and he's not a true nose tackle, but he plays a lot of snaps in the A gap for Michigan. So two tackles, one batted pass, one QB pressure. Michigan only allowed 58 rushing yards, which was 2.3 yards a carry, not even 2.5 yards, 18 points, 77.5. Those would be the two standout performers this week at the position. Of course, Grant is almost certainly going to be a first round pick, so if for Seahawks purposes, you're really just looking at Corleone, I think. But he's fun. He's good. All right. Now we move on to edge rusher. Top guy this week probably Landon Jackson of Arkansas. So I think this is the first time we're talking about him in one of these weekly videos this year. Landon Jackson of Arkansas. Five tackles, two batted passes at the line of scrimmage, six QB pressures. And I don't think he played a huge chunk of the game either. He didn't play like 60 snaps or anything like that. He played a normal number of snaps, maybe even a little below normal. 27 points allowed by Arkansas's defense, 354 yards, which was 5.3 yards per play. And Jackson had a almost 90 PFF grade, so he's balling. He's killing it. And another guy killing it in a similar manner would be Princely Umanmielen. You might remember this guy from last year. He was on Florida. Now he's on Ole Miss. And he had a really good game for Old Mississippi's defense. Two tackles and five pressures leading the way for that Mississippi defense. 6 points allowed. Allowed 311 yards, 4.2 yards per play, 74.1 PFF grade. So another really good game for him. He's coming around really nicely so far this year. Patrick Payton is the next guy. I wanted to go ahead and give him some credit because he did a good job getting to the quarterback. He's not really going to get a lot of credit this year overall, though, because he can't tackle. Every game he's missing tackles. He had three in this game, one tackle for loss, which was the sack, five pressures, which is really good. And FSU's defense did their job. They allowed 20 points and less than 5 yards per play, 337 yards. But his PFF grade is bad, 53.6, because he can't tackle. So that's the book on Patrick Payton right now. Just wanted to take the time to talk about him a little bit. Tyler Barron of Miami, next guy up here. Two tackles, 1.5 for loss, half a sack. Not stellar box score stats, but Miami's defense was really good in this game. They allowed 0 points and only 115 yards, which was literally 2.2 yards per play total. And Tyler Barron had four pressures in this game, and he didn't play. I think he played like less than 25 snaps, if I remember correctly. 72.2 PFF grade, so good stuff there. And the final edge rusher this week is another new name. It's Jaw Joyner of Minnesota. Had a very nice game for the Golden Gophers, four tackles and a batted pass, five QB pressures, and I misspelled pressures. Let me get that here real quick. 0 points allowed by Minnesota's defense, 172 yards, which is 3.2 yards per play, 70.3 PFF grade. He's like a late day 3 guy right now, so you could definitely get him in day 3, I think. I don't think he's going to be able to move up quickly enough to do anything about that. But very good game and a guy worth keeping an eye on now. Linebacker, moving on to linebacker, we had a decent spread. Still not that impressed with the linebackers this year personally. Not loving what I see. It's okay. Danny Stutzman continues to be the tackle god. He had 12, including half a tackle for loss for Oklahoma, and a QB pressure. I think he blitzed like almost 10 times in that game, though. So honestly, it's not a great pressure rate. Allowed 16 yards in coverage. I think it was one completion. And Oklahoma's defense was good. 19 points allowed, 279 yards, 4.2 yards per play, 76.1 PFF grade. So another really good game for Danny Stutzman. Jalen Walker had an interesting game. This is the Georgia guy who is playing a lot of edge and also has the linebacker skill set. So it's kind of hard to evaluate him because he plays a lot of edge for Georgia. But 2 tackles, 1 batted pass, and 8 pressures. So he can get after the quarterback. We know that. Unfortunately, that's not really the part of the equation that we need to answer here. But we can always say at the end of the day that, hey, maybe he can play the Micah Parsons role. Maybe he can be what Micah is. Certainly gets after the quarterback like Micah. Didn't allow anything in coverage. 12 points allowed by Georgia's defense. 284 yards, not even 4 yards a play. 76.1 PFF grade. So Jalen Walker, interesting player. However you want to look at him, just think of him as a player, I guess, right? He's a good player. Maybe he's not on this side, maybe he's not on that side, maybe he plays here, maybe he plays there, but he's a good player. Smael Mondon Jr., the other Georgia linebacker, also shows up here, 5 tackles and a batted pass with 3 pressures. So he's getting sent at the quarterback a little bit too. 3 coverage yards, 12 point, and the Georgia defense was very good, as we already know. They needed Georgia's defense to win that game. 68.9 PFF grade. So that's pretty strong. Nick Martin of OSU, Oklahoma State, this time Oklahoma State. 8 tackles and a batted pass. Pressure. Allowed 12 yards in coverage. 10 points. 352 yards. 5.1 yards per play. 62.3 grade on PFF. Not stellar. But, again, I'm just not that... I don't think there's a lot of stellar linebacker play out there right now in college football. Francisco Mauigoa continues to be the guy that I like as like the late day 3 sleeper for the Hurricanes. 6 tackles, 1 for loss, 2 batted passes, allowed 7 yards in coverage, and Miami's defense was completely dominant against a weak opponent, but 0 points allowed, 2.2 yards per play. Mauigoa had a 81 PFF grade, so we're cooking there for sure. And finally, we have defensive backs. We got 3 safeties and a couple of quote-unquote nickel corners, slot corners, whatever. Defensive backs, those are the ones that I think we need to look at right now. So number 1 would be Malachi Starks, who continues to be the top safety in this class by a long shot. In fact, the 3 safeties we're looking at this week may end up being the top 3 safeties in this draft. Malachi Starks of Georgia, 8 tackles, allowed 27 coverage yards, 12 points. I wrote down 12 points twice for absolutely no reason whatsoever. Let me get rid of that. 114 passing yards, 4.1 yards per play for that defense. And by the way, when I say play, I mean passing play. I just didn't want to write YPPP because it looks stupid. But we're talking about passing play, of course, drop back, whatever. 62.2 PFF grade. He continues to be the gold standard for safeties. Not an amazing game or anything, but he continues to stand out. The guy who did kind of stand out would be Nick Amanwari of the Gamecocks. Once again, he had a game where he made a big play, and therefore he gets a lot of attention in this segment. 9 tackles and a pick, took it back 20 yards, allowed 5 yards in coverage, and this was on a game against LSU, a team with a pretty prolific passing attack, and their passing attack worked in this game. They threw for 285 yards and scored 36 points, 7.1 yards per passing play, but Amanwari seemed to be doing his job to me. 67 PFF grade, he stands out there. And then you have Malachi Moore, Alabama. 7 tackles, half for loss, forced fumble, 17 coverage yards allowed, 10 points, 141 passing yards allowed by Alabama, 4.5 yards per play, passing play, and almost an 80 PFF grade. So he's another guy who may bump up into that first round territory before all said and done. Those Alabama players tend to get artificially boosted because they play for Alabama. Maybe that won't happen anymore now that Nick Saban's not there. I don't know. Jabbar Muhammad and Jahdae Barron are going to take us home here. They're the two nickel corners that I'm really keeping an eye on this year. I thought both played pretty well. Muhammad, 5 tackles and a pass breakup. Also had a QB pressure, so showing a little bit on the blitz. Did allow 35 yards in coverage, but it wasn't a bad... It's I don't consider it to be a big problem to give up some coverage yards when you're playing for Oregon. Oregon scores so many points, and they did in this game, that sometimes you're just going to give up stuff. It can't be helped. 14 points allowed by Oregon's defense, 178 passing yards, which was 5.1 yards per play, 65.4 PFF grade. Good game for Jabbar. And then Jahdae Barron of Texas, he's the kind of pseudo linebacker, pseudo nickel corner. We don't totally know what he's going to do. Hopefully he can do both. 5 tackles, 13 coverage yards allowed. Texas allowed 7 points, 132 passing yards, which is 4.4 yards per pass. And Barron had a almost 80 PFF grade. So another good game for him. I really like him. He's really fun as a player, I think. And that's it for this week. That's all the college football stuff I have. But another week is starting up soon. So let me know what you think. I will see you guys later. More videos coming. More directly pertaining to the Seahawks in all likelihood. See you guys later. Go Hawks. And yeah, that's my look at college football prospects for the week.